Welcome to the consulting rooms of Deckard and Booth. We are your cinematic sleuths, investigating the best, worst, and forgotten movies of film noir. Today's case is none other than V I Warshawski from 1991, starring Kathleen Turner. A tough female private eye, Vic Warshawski, dates a former ice hockey star whose body is later pulled out of Lake Michigan, leaving her to look after his 13-year-old daughter. Warshawski finds herself not only tracking down a murderer, but protecting the child from local mobsters. That's the summary of the plot, really, Luke, and it sounds pretty much like an average film noir. What do you reckon?
You read the logline and you're like, hey, that sounds like a typical PI story. It's like it's got all the ingredients that you come to expect from a PI film or book or something like that. On paper, this sounds good.
On paper, yeah. On screen, perhaps we can agree that something different happens.
I mean, it's true. I mean, the thing is, what's so funny, even reading the kind of synopsis here, it says, VI dates a former ice hockey star. Does she date him?
No.
His name is Bernard, however, but like, do they don't really date.
They don't date at all.
They know each other a whole whopping, 5 hours or less?
Yeah. I think they get off in a bar car park, don't they? And that's about it.
Yes.
So that's pushing dating by anybody's standards, I would have thought. I think we should say at the outset that this film is based on at least one of a series of books by a very well-respected and best-selling crime writer, Sara Paretsky.
Yes.
Sara Paretsky. Officially, this is an adaptation of a 1984 novel, Deadlock, but I'll say from the outset, I've not read these novels, so I'm coming to this purely from the film, and I'll say more about that later on. But I think it's fair to say that this isn't an adaptation of just that book. I think there's there's 3 or 4 books thrown in. Do you think, does it do her justice?
Oh, absolutely not. So I am a big Sara Paretsky fan. I like V I Warshawski on paper. I like her in the books a lot. I think Sara Paretsky is a absolutely terrific hard-boiled writer. Like she is a modern day, she is a modern day Chandler. She is of that camp. So I love it. The plot isn't too dissimilar. So I'm just going to read the back of it, and reading this off of Wikipedia, but it says Vic goes to Chicago Port to find out about the death of her cousin, not lover, cousin, Boom Boom. So in the movie, they don't have her be related. They're not related, but police believe that this ex-Blackhawks hockey player died in an accident, but Vic believes that Boom Boom was killed. Vic starts digging into the motives and evidence, and after 2 attempts on her life, she finally thinks that she has the murder solved, but needs stronger evidence. To get it, she goes to the yacht of a shipping magnate, but is caught by the magnate while she's gathering evidence against him, and he confronts her and tells her, she's going to die. So there's shades that are quite similar, but I don't think there's the kids is involved or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, Paretsky is a great writer, and this film, it doesn't do the character justice. And I think we have to look no further than the tagline to look at the kind of the mindset behind the individuals who were producing and writing this film. Do you want to share the tagline, Matt?
I will. The tagline is killer eyes, killer legs, killer instinct. And
I mean, you've not read the books, but like Sara, VI in the books is, I mean, yeah, she's tough and she can hold herself and whatnot, and she does all the stuff that a typical hard-boiled detective will do, but she comes at it from a very different angle. And this is being, you can tell this has been written by dudes.
I was just gonna say.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's so obviously like written by dude bros.
Yeah,
and it
is obviously written by men, and it plays out. And we'll come on to the actual film itself in a minute, but she's shot very much from a male perspective.
Yes.
All the way through.
Yes.
And that seems to me, I mean, I understand the concept of the character of a tough female private eye. that idea, that concept is very much undermined by this film in the way it's written, the way it's shot, the way it's directed, and to a certain extent the way it's acted. It's very it does quite the opposite of what I think the character of the books was intended to do.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you read a VI book, you're not getting the hyper. She's not hypersexualized or anything like that. I mean, she is, she's a woman, and Sara doesn't write her in a way that kind of ignores the fact that she's an attractive woman. There's romance and stuff like that happens in these books in the same way there's romance in a Robert B. Parker book or in a maybe Raymond Chandler and stuff like that. So there's definitely romance going on in there, but she's not. We're in her eyes, we're in her perspective. She might notice people kind of performing what you might call like the male gaze, but the novel, her novels aren't written from that perspective, and there's not a lot of. Yeah, there's just not a lot of over sexualization, which there is a lot of sexualization of VI.
There's a lot of that in the film.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in the film, and very much from a in the 1990s mold. One of the things that struck me about this film is how dated it is.
It's from the very opening with the music and the it's just it is. I felt like I was watching. When it first came on and the theme tune started to come on, I felt like I was watching the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, because it has that sort of dun 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 dun, dun. Like it has that kind of vibe, and I'm like, this is really goofy and cheesy, like straight off the bat. It's goofy and cheesy.
Yeah, the opening theme and the music throughout really struck me as like a cast off from Miami Vice or Beverly Hills Cop or something like that.
Yes.
Those sort of synthesized themes.
Yes.
But without any of the punch that the Miami theme and Beverly Hills Cop theme have.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a kid in his bedroom trying to replicate that.
Yes. I think that's the thing. I think the best way, if we were to sum this movie up, it's like you're making a cake. And you have all the ingredients, but you don't put them in the right order or the right portions. And so it's kind of a cake by the end, but it's, you can't.
Not a cake you'd want to eat.
Yeah, you don't want to eat it. You don't want to tell you like that goes straight into the bin. Interestingly, this was our we recently did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which starred Kathleen Turner, which is fun. Yeah. She was the femme fatale. She was Jessica Rabbit, and that was a Disney movie. This is also a Disney movie, which is a little bit strange. So Hollywood Pictures was another one of Disney's sort of. So Who Framed Roger Rabbit was Touchstone. This is Hollywood Pictures, and that's another one of Disney's kind of mature brands. So it's funny that we have these two sort of PI movies, Hollywood movie, Disney movies, both starring Kathleen Turner in these. In one she's the femme fatale, and here she's the hard bitten private eye. But yeah, I guess this was a very different time for Disney when they, again, it kind of goes back to they were taking a bit more risks when they had studios that didn't have the Disney branding. In one respect, I sort of miss those days of the Touchstone era, the Hollywood Pictures era, where you could get you would never find a film like this under like Disney with the Disney stamp.
No, I get that that sensation that it's not quite brave enough to do what it really needs to do.
So VI was rated R in the States. So this is this is in the UK, that'd be an 18, right? So this is for mature audiences. So what I'm thinking is, as I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking about what other R-rated movies were sort of out at that time. And you mentioned the music sounds like Beverly Hills Cop, and that instantly came to mind, because what is that? Not only is that an R-rated movie, but it's a comedy. It's a comedy detective movie that is all shades of noir all over it, but done in a more hyper humoristic way. You also have Lethal Weapon has had a couple of films out by this point, which again is that same sort of
same
stuff.
idea.
Then I was thinking, okay, well, we also have, there's a kid in this movie, and I thought, okay, RoboCop 2 came out a little bit before this. That had a smart mouth cursing kid, and then the same year as this movie came out, Warshawski, V I Warshawski, that came out the same year as Terminator 2, which had a young John Connor.
Yeah,
cursing his way through the movie. So what I was feeling like is, as I was watching this movie, I thought this feels like a slapdash attempt to cash in on everything else that's happening, because Sara's books are not comedy in the way that this film badly tries to do comedy.
And it's interesting you mention in particular Terminator 2. There's a lot of things that you said there that I'd want to pick up on, but Terminator 2, you look at the kid in that, you look at John Connor in that, and you compare it to this horrendous brat in this, they're worlds apart. John Connor's got a proper journey. Starts as a wise cracking arsehole, but learns quite serious and deep lessons in the 2 hours plus that film is on. This kid learns nothing. And the relationship with VI, we'll call her VI, shall we? And then we don't get the surname wrong.
It's good.
A relationship with VI, or Vic even, is sort of paint by numbers. They start hostile and end up friends. But there's no payoff for that in my book at all, because they've not earned that payoff in the same way that Connor and the Terminator, and even Sarah Connor with John Connor, have earned that payoff at the end. And you're right, it's a sort of, well, that'll do attitude. We've got a kid in it, there are some jokes in it, and it's based on some noir thriller novels. Everything's there, it's got to succeed. And it's just too facile for words, that approach, because it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because the depth isn't there, the texture isn't there, the relationships aren't there, the characters aren't properly drawn. I think, speaking of that, it's probably like we can kind of go behind the camera a little bit and talk about the people behind the film. So just looking at the credits of the creators behind this movie, is you have Jeff Kanew, or Kanew, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, but Kanew. So I'll say Jeff Kanew. But I mean, under he's edited a lot of films. He seems to be more of an editor than he is a director, and sometimes an editor doesn't translate well into the director's chair. Some of the films under his belt, they're not a lot. There's obviously more than what I've ever done, which is 0. But things like Black Rodeo, Natural Enemies, Gotcha, Tough Guys, VI, National Lampoon's Adam and Eve. Like, there's nothing in this filmography that is standing out by any stretch. And it seems like he had a good run, sort of in the late 80s into the 90s, and then it sort of petered off, and then spent a lot of the 2000s doing mostly editing. The writers as well. There's one of the writers, Edward Taylor, only has 2 credits: V I Warshawski and something called Television Theater, which I don't know what that is. It's an episode of something. And then there's a guy named David Aaron Cohen. He's written a handful of things between 1989 and 2021. Something called Speed Kills. I don't know what that is. The Miracle Season. I don't know. Friday Night Lights. I guess he did the screenplay for that film back in 2004. That's like the biggest name kind of in his list. So you're looking at the people behind this, and you're like, well, I'm not really seeing anyone who is kind of like proven themselves as an excellent director or an excellent editor or an excellent writer. They seem sort of, it's going to sound mean, but it feels like I'm looking at sort of, I don't know, B-list talent. Yeah. I know what you mean about it sounding mean, but I think it's true. And I think to a large extent that extends to the cast.
Yeah.
Because with the exception of Turner and is it Charles Durning, I don't think there's anybody else in there that stands out to me as any great degree of caliber, to be honest.
Well, no, I got maybe I disagree with that a little bit actually because Kathleen Turner is she's good, but I think she's not good in this. I'll just get that out of the way now. I don't think she's good in this by far. There are other actors in here that I'm like, wow, that's a really big actor. So you have Wayne Knight, who is Newman on Seinfeld. He plays the gangster.
And in Jurassic Park,
and he's Edry in Jurassic Park. He's a very good actor, but he's mostly a comedy actor, so he felt sort of out of place in this role. But I think that was more to do with the film not knowing what the heck it was trying to do or be. At the very beginning of the movie, when Vi goes to the sausage factory and she meets that guy named Mickey, that's Stephen Root. He's the stapler guy off of Office Space. Stapler. He took my stapler.
All right.
He's hugely famous, at least here. He was in that show Barry. He was Barry's handler. If you've not seen Barry, that's a terrific show to go watch because that's very hard-boiled-y, very noir-y, about an assassin who wants to become an actor. It's also hilarious. Stephen Root wasn't big at that time, but Wayne Knight was a name.
It's perhaps a testament to the film that I'd sort of forgotten he was in it.
Which, I mean, I do feel like there are a lot of characters you can sort of cut and you will not miss them. It's probably worth noting before we dive deeper into the film that Sara Paretsky was not happy with this movie. She was annoyed because Vi was subordinate to her male counterpart, so he was meant to have a bigger role apparently. And they,
well, thank God that didn't happen.
Yes, because boy, was he boring. Was he
absolutely
boring?
Yeah,
as crap.
I think she was okay. She was quite pleased at Turner's casting.
Yeah,
at the outset, but I think the overall result was, as I think our view is on it, Luke. The overall result was not what she might have been forgiven for expecting it would be.
I think the hypersexualization, the silly, the humor, it just doesn't. It's not what the books really were, and again, it's one of those things where it's not that you have to necessarily follow the books to a T, but if you're going to do something wild and crazy, like turn something like this into a bit of a comedy, you need to be intelligent about it, and I don't think this film necessarily had that.
No, I don't think this film is intelligent at all. and it's just interesting you say that because I said at the outset I've not read the books, but I did throughout the film get the impression that there was some character relationships I should have been picking up on, and they were sort of there, and I thought if I read the books I think I would get this point, but a better script I think could have got those points across much clearer and much better, so that somebody like me who's coming to the film fresh wouldn't feel left out like that.
Yes.
The whole shoe obsession, for example. I thought there's probably a history to this.
I can't quite remember that being a thing. I'm not saying it's not a thing or wasn't. I in my memory of what I've taken away from VI books, a shoe obsession isn't the thing that stands out to me.
Maybe that's the writers then. I don't know.
I mean, that could have been. I'm not sure on that, but it felt reductive to me. It's like you have this scene where she's in a bar, and this is really early on in the film, and she goes and she hangs out with her friend Sal, who has one scene in the movie and then is gone. Sal's the lady who runs the bar, and apparently they're friends. And it's like, where is she? Where did she go? Why did she leave? But anyway,
she never comes back.
Exactly. She never comes back. It's like, why? Why even have that character? Superfluous. Totally superfluous.
Yeah. So I didn't know, you see, whether that was a character from the books and that she goes to that bar all the time.
I think Sal might be in the books. It might be. But either way, even if she's not, like, you got to make these characters count. To not to jump ahead too much, but like I thought the introduction of Sal would mean that, okay, she must be the person that Vi hides Bernard's kid with.
Yeah.
Because we've introduced her, and that seems the logical thing to do.
Yeah.
Nope, some old lady.
Yes, I agree with that. And it's twofold for me, this. And again, this is not reading the books, but I thought maybe she's a character in the books and they're paying lip service to that character by just having her in so that the fans of the books go, oh, there's Sal.
Mm.
And then when the film had finished, I think, again, like you say, well, she didn't do anything apart from serve some drinks.
Yes.
So she didn't work in the context of the film, and she didn't work, as far as I can see, as payment for the character that's in the series of novels, if indeed she is. So she didn't work on either score.
No.
So what's the point? Get rid of her.
None. No point at all. And again, like you really really early on, you get a sense. I want to touch on one early point and then get back to the shoes bit, because I got some stuff to say about the shoe bit. But early on, you really get a sense of where this like comedy is going to go and how sleazy it's going to be. And you get it very early on with that one scene with the guy from Office Space, who's now, his name has gone out of my head again, Stephen Root. When Stephen Root's character, his name's Mickey, says, "Oh, so you're a female dick," and you just like the innuendo is so like smeared on, it's dripping off the screen, and you feel gross, awful. You feel sleazy. It's just like, oh god. And that scene comes after her going for a run, where we're just looking at her legs as she goes for a run, while a pack of dude bros, like 30 of them in one go, just like cheer her on because she's just so sexy. And you're just like, oh god, it's so sleazy. Some of this stuff very early on.
The scene where she loses a shoe in a car, in the backseat of a car, and when she goes to retrieve it, the camera is just all up her legs.
It is.
Yeah, you think this is sleazy is the word. This is the worst type of 90s. Yeah. Macho wish fulfillment. It's horrendous.
Yes, which is the antithesis of Paretsky's books. It really, really is. It's so mishandled on every level. But back to the bar scene, like that scene was such a weird moment. It's okay. She goes to the bar, she gets some shoes. They're like these Dorothy slippers, they're red sparkly shoes. And I'm like, what? First off, I'm like, why did you go to the bar to get these shoes? I don't understand why you needed those shoes. What was the point of those? It's like Chekhov's gun. You introduce it in the first act, it has to go off in the last. Absolutely. Those shoes don't pay off.
No, they don't. What is the point of those shoes? But the Chekhov's gun thing applies to a lot of stuff in this film. That is set up and never paid off.
Yes,
at all. That whole scene with the shoe, it's an excuse to do two things. One, get her in the bar so she can meet Bernard.
Yes,
who God help us.
There are plenty of ways they could have done that.
Plenty of ways they could have done that. But also to demonstrate this obsession with shoes, which I don't understand at all. I don't get what that adds to anybody. And if it's meant to be a character thing, it's a pretty poor one.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you could have had fun with it. You could have had fun with it if that is something, if she is really into shoes. Like, we know people that are into shoes, men and women, that really love shoes. Like, if that is something that she's into, you could have moments where she is checking out someone's shoes. She makes comments about people's shoes. She sees some shoes in a shop window. She's like, oh, if I really want those shoes, or she's got her work shoes and she's got her nice shoes. And then at some point her nice shoes get effed up and she's like, you could have, because this is trying to be sort of comedic, you could do something with that. But even that,
done a lot with it. Yeah. You could have made it a running gag. That's what you could have done.
Yeah,
and you could have made it a running gag that was character driven.
Yes,
if they'd set up the fact that she had a shoe obsession.
Yes,
properly. Yes. I mean, it's sort of hinted at, but it just comes across as fatuous, really.
Yes,
and it adds to that feeling of she is a stupid woman, for want of a better phrase, when she's meant to be a tough private eye. It totally belittles what I think the books are trying to achieve, and no doubt do achieve.
Yeah.
And that whole thing is what would have made this character fascinating to me.
Yes. Because I absolutely loathe the introduction of Bernard. I hated it so much. He walks into the bar and she has no ways, and she's just instantly lusting over this guy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, again, this just feels like male fantasy. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
how the guys want the women to see them when they come into a bar. Like,
Yeah.
I have to have that man over there.
Yeah.
It's just like
And you
she
think
had.
how many men a PI of either sex sees who turns out to be a sleaze
Mm,
or a crook? She'd be wiser than that. She'd
yes.
be, if anything, I think she'd say it's always the good-looking, smooth ones that you've got to be wary of, or whatever.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It's just lazy.
Yes.
Just
And
lazy and undermining to a laughable degree.
yes. And I don't know if this was a Disney hint or whatnot, but the whole like him tripping over her shoe and putting the glass slipper, calling her Cinderella.
Cinderella thing, yeah.
I was like, I didn't know if that was intentional Disney or if that was just lazy writing. Either way, I hated that.
I hated it as well. And she kicks him in the shin, for God's sake. It's not subtle either, is it?
No. That whole opening and how they connect to kind of get this case off and running just felt so clunky. It's like, you know what? You just should have kept Boom Boom as her cousin. Like, there was no need to change him from not being a cousin, because them having a couple of hot kisses didn't add anything. If anything, if it was her cousin and she had a niece, that makes more sense as to why she'd want to protect the kid and look after the kid.
Yeah, well, we might come on to that later, that relationship.
Yes.
I'll just put in now, because you've mentioned it. I couldn't take a film seriously that had a main character, whether he's dead or not, called Boom Boom. Really?
I was getting very agitated every time the character said Boom Boom. I'm like, you need to stop saying Boom Boom, or I'm going to throw my remote at the screen.
Yeah, can't we just call him Bernard? Or Bernard in the American? A Boom Boom it really got on my nerves after a while.
Yes.
And especially in those scenes where you're meant to take his death seriously. They murdered Boom Boom. Just
can we talk about his death?
We can talk about it, because I know what you're going to say about his death, and you can happily talk about it.
So he goes to the dock. He's meant to go meet his a relative, like his brother or brother-in-law or something like that, at the dock. We don't know this at the time, but he goes down to the dock to go meet someone because they own a little shipping little I don't know, boat business or something like that in Chicago. He goes walking up to the boat, and suddenly the whole thing explodes, like Michael Bay level explosion, an insanely huge explosion. Now, you look at Bernard in that explosion, and you would think that, okay, a bomb goes off and you're going to get thrown back by the explosion. For some reason, he flies into and sideways of the explosion. And at that point, from that point onwards, like, the film was already losing me, but that was the part I was like, okay, this film has lost me entirely, because physics.
Yeah, and we should make it clear that you say it was already losing you, and it was certainly losing me. But what are we, 30 minutes in,
or less?
Or less?
It's less. It's going to be less. It's like an hour and a half movie. So they set Bernard up and kill him off really quickly, because
and there's a lot of things about that, really. To be serious for a minute, that this is the main murder. This is the death that sparks the whole investigation, and the seriousness of that inciting incident, to use a technical phrase, is completely undermined by that lame direction.
Yeah,
and that really cheap choreography of that stunt.
Yes.
Yes. Any drama in that moment is completely stolen by that one stunt and that one absence of physics, as you rightly say. That, you think, well, we can't take this seriously anymore. So all jeopardy's gone, all tension has gone, all suspense has gone for the next I mean, let's be generous, 70 minutes.
Yes, probably. Yeah, definitely. And I think again, the scene right before that sets up it is where I was really starting to get lost, and then finally lost with the explosion. But the scene just before that is a very hammy, very American 90s sitcom vibe, where Vi goes home late at night. She wants to have a shower, she wants to have a bath, but her friend is there. A guy friend of hers is there waiting for her, watching the game, because she can see the Cubs stadium outside of her house somehow. I don't know if that's actually physically possible, but maybe it is. But it was so much hijinks. It was, this guy who clearly fancies her, her character Murray fancies her, but like I can't quite tell at first. At first, I actually thought it was like her brother from the way they were talking.
Yeah. It's not made clear at all what this relationship is. And again, I was thinking, well, should I know this from the books, really?
Yeah.
But he's a reporter, and he just comes out of nowhere, and you're meant to buy into the fact, because there's been a couple of lines with Sal where she says Murray thinks I'm too independent or something. I mean, the main female character of your film, who's a sassy, ass-kicking private eye, one character thinks she's too independent, and and Sal says he's right. I mean, it's just bonkers. But
it is.
Anyway, he comes in out of nowhere, does Murray, and you're right. He just walks into a bathroom as if he owns the place.
Yes. Well, yeah. So yeah. Well, first she walks home. She comes home and he's just there in her house for some reason. And then there's this really weird. I mean, editing, pacing, everything about this film was off for me, because they have a conversation and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to take a bath," and then the next scene is her fully immersed in a bubble bath. And then Bernard just walks in the room, continuing the conversation. I'm like, time? Yeah. Does time mean nothing? Like, you would have had this conversation while she was filling up the bathtub. Then she would have said, "Get out of here. I'm going to get in the bath." Yeah. Yeah, but instead he just barges in while she's naked, so that we can have that scene of her naked in the bathtub, and he's like starts like playing with the water and playing with the bubbles. And you're like, this is so, I don't like what is happening. She doesn't seem into it. You don't seem like this doesn't seem good, guys.
Hasn't Bernard brought the daughter with him as well?
No. So yeah. So what happened is oh, sorry, not Bernard. Murray barges into Murray barges into the bathroom and starts playing with the bubbles and stuff like that. Then out of nowhere, there's a ring on the door, and Bernard shows up with his daughter. Yeah. And they're all here in the bathroom while she's in the bath. And this is what I mean. It's like some 90s sitcom shit. And you're like, what is going on in your PI? Well, what? Who thought this was a good idea?
Who thought it was a good idea?
Full House, guys.
And again, why is this like tough PI character not saying, "Get out"?
I know.
It's a crazy scene, followed up by a ridiculous death. And I'm afraid that we are sort of talking 15, 20 minutes perhaps into the film, and I was already thinking there's a long way to go. And really, it should be sucking you in, and you should be getting involved in the mystery. At this point, there is no mystery.
Yeah.
But when you've only got, I think is it 89 minutes or something?
Yeah, it's an hour and 28 minutes.
Right.
Not long.
So things should be happening quicker than this to get those relationships set up swiftly, so that when Bernard dies, it means something, whereas now it doesn't mean anything. And this is where the change from the cousin to some random bloke she meets in a bar doesn't work. Because if they were cousins, there's already, the audience will bring with it a sense of family. It knows that they're cousins. It knows they're related. It knows there will have been some backstory there. So you need a couple of lines then to establish that. You remember when we were kids and we played in the treehouse and that sort of stuff that can set that up very quickly, so that when it dies, she feels something. Yeah. As it is, this is a bloke she picked up in a bar, got off within the car park, and went home and had a bath. It makes me. Why does she care?
Yes. I couldn't figure out why she. My thought exactly. I don't understand why she gave 2 craps and then did the whole cheesy. Oh, give me $1. Okay, now you've officially hired me. It's like you do that with like Poor Family. Like I would have bought that with a poor family member sort of situation, but not this. I also don't buy Bernard bringing his daughter Kat to VI to watch her. I that also, like, of all what
Of all the people, why would you pick a private eye that
you
you
don't
only
know?
just met?
Yeah.
To leave your daughter with? Why has he got no? We're not told this, but I don't think. But has he got no family? Has he got no friends? Is he?
Well, he does have family. He's got all those brothers.
Oh, he's got. Well, absolutely. Oh, yeah, of course. That's indicative of how much this plot like imprinted itself on my brain.
Yeah, yeah.
The brothers are central, and I've forgotten all about them.
He clearly has some family, but it's like maybe he doesn't have close family. Maybe, but if that's the case, you needed more time to develop their relationship. Something like Vi should have finished a job for someone adjacent to Bernard so that he could kind of be impressed by her.
Yeah,
something like that.
These aren't things that are difficult to fix.
Mm-mm.
In screenplay writing terms, these are a couple of lines.
Yes.
A few seconds of screen time.
Yeah.
Well-written lines and well-placed lines and well-delivered lines that will carry that backstory in those couple of seconds.
Yes.
That's all you need.
Yes.
That's all it would have taken to add a bit of depth and texture to that relationship. Whereas as it is, they're two isolated people with nothing in common, nothing to bind them together. And you're asked to accept that she cares enough, A, about his death to investigate it on her own terms, and B, give a shit about his daughter.
Yeah.
And that relationship, that triangle is meant to be the heart of this film. And if that fails, the whole thing fails. And I'm afraid for me it did.
The daughter Kat, who I was like, I recognize this girl. I know her from something. And then it dawned on me. She's one of the kids from Home Alone who goes up to Kevin McAllister and says that he is les incompetents. And the whole time I just kept in my head watching this movie being like, this movie is les incompetents.
Well, I'm glad I didn't know that, because I would probably turn this off and watch Home Alone.
Yes. But so then they have that stupid hijinks scene where she orders a cab because she's going to go to her dad because he should have been back by midnight. And also you're kind of thinking, again, what is time? She was at the bar. She was with him. They made out in the parking lot. Now she's back home. Like, what is time? What time was it when she got home? I guess the game was the baseball game was still on or just ending, or like, suddenly it's midnight. It was just like, it was weird. It's like, what time of day or what time of night did all this stuff happen?
Did she go to that bar?
Yeah.
Because they're not at the bar that long, I don't think.
Clearly not.
For it then to, she's got to go home, like you say, go home, have a bath. He's got to go and get the daughter. They've all got to come back. You've got to mess around with Murray for a while. And then you're in this taxi cab. You're right. What is, so physics has gone out of the window. Time's gone out of the window. Plausibility has never come in the window. So.
No, because then it's odd. Because then she's once Bernard is killed and she's suddenly invested in this stupid case for no reason at all. Then she needs to find a place for the daughter, and she decides, instead of like Sal, which would have made sense as we said, she then picks this old lady doctor named Lottie. And I'm like, I don't know, you don't really understand their relationship or anything.
No, well, again, I thought, is this someone from the books that they're just paying lip service to?
Possibly, I don't know. Can't remember.
But, I mean, I can't see it, really. I can't see it. But you're right, it makes no sense that she could. Sal would have been a much better option.
Yes. Because then the other thing that was a bit bizarre is two things. One, when after the death, Kat runs away and VI finds her. And when VI finds her, Kat says, "It's your fault he's dead."
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is it VI's fault? What the hell did she do?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
She's not responsible for this, you muppet.
Yeah. And then she makes out she cares so much. But the next time you see her, when she's gone to this doctor, she's playing around with the kids and having a laugh.
Exactly.
She's not that cut up about her dad's death, is she?
No, it made no sense to me. Literally, I wrote that down. I was like, wait a minute, why is she so happy playing with these kids? Like, her dad just died. She's acting like nothing has happened.
It's as if the screenwriters sort of didn't know where they were going, and then said, "Should we have a break?" Then they came back with, now we know," but they'd forgotten that the scene they were writing then was the same day, or the next day, perhaps.
Yes.
As the in inverted commas emotional scene they just written.
Yes.
So that weeks for the screenwriters have passed, and they think that weeks have passed in the screenplay, whereas really it's a matter of hours.
Yeah, and then all sorts of nonsense starts happening, and Vi is attacked by some people in her apartment who I recognize. The big guy plays the janitor guy in Friends.
Friends,
and then the other guy
Joey teaches to dance.
Say again.
Joey teaches him to dance.
Yes. So in my head canon was like, that's just the janitor from Friends. This is his life before he's in New York. The other guy, the short bald guy, is one of the pirates from Pirates of the Caribbean, because he's one of the two dopey pirates. There's the lanky pirate, and there's the short one, and he's the short dopey one. But I was like, okay, more famous-esque people, like people who are genuinely good actors, are in this movie. And then that scene is then followed up by that scene with Wayne Knight.
Before we go into that, I'm going to say something about that stairwell fight. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm trying to find praise where it's very difficult to find. Yes. But I think of all the fight scenes, certainly, I quite like this one, because she actually shows herself to be quite using the light bulb as a weapon is a great bit of spontaneous, proper fighting. And when she anchors herself on the banister and throws him back against the wall, she is showing some guts there, and she's standing up for herself against these two bigger fellas, so that when she gets knocked down, it's a decent payoff, that I think, because she's shown such tenacity and strength and balls. I'm not in any way saying it's anything like the Bourne films, but that using tea towels and pens as weapons, anything you can lay your hands on. There was a glimmer of that in that sort of 10-second fight scene.
Yeah, that is probably. I don't
held
want to
my
jump ahead.
attention for those 10 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to jump ahead, but it is definitely one of the better scenes in the movie. There's a couple of scenes that I do like, and that would be one of them.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It is one of the few times where she's demonstrating her strength, and it's my guess is it's probably in the book. One of the other really interesting things about Vi in the books is that Sara Paretsky explores that a lot. That I'm a woman. I have to be able to fight, but I also have to realize that some people are going to be bigger and stronger than me. And how do I operate?
And as a female PI character, that is very empowering, I think, to say I've still got the guts to go out knowing that I might get my ass kicked and potentially worse might happen to me. Let's face it, but still having the guts to say I will take that risk because the job needs doing.
Yeah.
That says a lot about a female PI character, I think.
Yeah.
In the same way that Marlowe saying, I needed life insurance and a vacation where I've got a hat and a gun and a coat, and you've got to just go and get the job done.
Yes.
It has an extra resonance when it's a woman doing it.
Yes.
And that's one of the few scenes, I think, that where that toughness comes through, and it comes through very clearly.
The next big bit we get to is the scene with Wayne Knight. He's some gangster. He's somehow connected to everything that's going on, but it's never really made clear what his connection is.
Why does he care?
Yes, I don't know, and I will never know. But he's for some reason involved with the overall scheme that's happening with the brothers and their doc and
it's
whatever.
what we were saying before, that these films typically, and these types of stories typically, have gangsters in them somewhere.
Yeah.
So they think, well, we'll put a gangster in it, and then that's that box ticked.
Yes.
But there's no motivation behind it. There's no characterization behind it. There's no plot.
It's a second. The whole scene is a second-rate Chandler, because you have stupid lines like, "Don't you know how hard it is to get blood out of Kashmir?" And you're just like, oh, that's a stupid line. Like, you're trying to sound tough, and this is partly. I mean, Kathleen Turner is wonderful in general, but something about her performance in this even she felt like she was doing a parody of hard-boiled fiction. And I think everyone sort of gave that kind of performance. Like, this is meant to be hard-boiled parody. And so everything was overacted, and she's very overacting in all of her scenes and the way her lines are delivered. It's very, there's no realness behind her.
No, I'd agree with that. And I think it's because, I mean, she's not a bad actress. She's a good actress. You've only got to look at her in things like Body Heat and the voice of Jessica Rabbit. When she needs to do this sort of stuff, she's very, very good. But I think it's the writers and the director who didn't know what they wanted this to be. If this had been done as a full-out Police Squad or Naked Gun type Private Eye spoof, I think it would have been a lot better. Yeah. But the fact it's not marketed as that or presented as that, and it's presented as a serious PI thriller with some comic undertones, works to its disservice, really.
The next sort of chunk of the film just sort of goes haywire for me, where the next morning, for some reason, Kat, the young girl, comes back to VI's house, and she wants to help and wants to go along, and then the film just becomes a totally different movie, where it's this child
buddy cop film.
Yeah. And they do all sorts of weird stuff. They go to a lawyer's office and cause chaos, and the kid starts screaming about some assaults. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with any of this.
Very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
Then there's the sort of, then there's the bank scene, which it's like, the idea of that bank scene, I sort of liked. It's like, okay, we're gonna finally use the kid to do something childish to then get some information, where the kid wants to deposit some money for her mom's birthday, and she doesn't have the account details, and she starts crying and makes, then they eventually get some information, and then from that information they then are able to obtain other information from another part of the bank. So that was a clever scene, but everyone is overacting, underacting. It's the dialogue is terrible, so I'm not able to I can't immerse myself in this stuff. But you also have a really, really big revelation in the bank scene, and you realize that Kat's mom and this Mr. Trumbull are financially broke. And I remember thinking, who's Trumbull?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, was that old man she was just seeing in the scene before, or is he someone else?
Yeah, and that's because these characters don't come alive. They're there they're there to serve the plot rather than being people in themselves. Yeah, and I had the same thing. I thought, who?
The movie barely, I think, even understands who did what to who. I feel bad for whoever had to edit this film, because they were like, "What comes next?"
Yeah,
are you sure? Okay.
I remember sending you. I sent you a message saying, I'm not really sure what the plot is, and maybe that is the mystery.
Yeah, it's again, it's like
one of those old adventure books that you used to get as a kid. Do this, go to page 4. Do this, go to page 8. You've got to piece the mystery together yourself, because the writers don't know what it is.
It's like once you eventually step back, you kind of get an idea of what the plot was meant to be, and it's these brothers own this dock. Bernard and Kat's mom are divorced, and her mom is broke, as with her new husband, who is Trumbull. And the idea is that some people want to buy the dock and turn it and develop it into this big, I don't know, some kind of thing. I don't remember what, but some sort of big expensive dock thing. And they're like the only people standing in the way. It's kind of like Roadhouse, the new Roadhouse movie, where it's like, we need to buy this property, so we need to get this little thing out of our way, but one person doesn't want to sell, so they kill the one person who sells, who's Bernard, and then they need to kill the kid, because all the stuff goes to the kid, so that therefore the mom can make the decision to sell the place, and therefore Trumbull and whatever can get a bunch of money. That's the overall plot, but
it's in there somewhere. It's definitely in there somewhere, but
it's hard to decipher.
And it's buried under all this rubbish.
Yes. And so it's a bit nuts. And then again, just crazy stuff starts happening. They try to kidnap the kid, and it was so Home Alone comedic, where the kid gets picked up, thrown into a van, and then VI does some fighting, and the kid just goes out the back of the van.
Yeah.
It was so Home Alone goofy that I'm like,
it was.
What?
Well, again, it was It was almost Naked Gun, but the Naked Gun knows it's doing it, and it's winking at the camera all the time. I think, because the music in all these scenes is meant to. Yeah, I think you're meant to be on the edge of your seat, and it's meant to be ramping up the tension.
Yes,
and it isn't.
No, it's that peppy theme. That peppy theme just undermines any sense of drama. She's like, okay, well, we're listening to happy-go-lucky music. Yeah. So they'll obviously get out of this situation. Yeah, what do you think of the boat chase and how the boat chase concluded?
Oh, there aren't many things that make me cringe in the way that this film makes me cringe. Some of the dialogue in this, and especially in particular in this scene, really does put your hackles up. I would go so far as to say it was out of date in 1991, but it's certainly out of date now. But I'll let you give the listeners and the subscribers the joy.
Yes. So at the end of this, they run away.
Oh, because I don't want to say the line that I know you're going to say.
It's all right. It's all right. I'll say the line. I'll say the line. But so yeah, it's nuts because you have this big long boat chase after after the attempted kidnapping, and so one of the gangsters like shoots their boat, and when they finally catch up, you just see the kid crying, and you don't see VI, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you kill her! How could you kill her?" And then the next thing you know, there's this big shot of water, this jet stream of water, that then starts hitting the gangsters in their boat. They both fall out of the boat, and they're like paddling, struggling in the water and all that kind of stuff. And we then get this scene of VI on top of this, inside this other big boat that kind of made you stop and think again, time, space, physics. Yeah. Like, did these people come up to the boat and not see those 5 people standing on the boat, watching them, looking at the boat where VI was just in? Again, it's very like comedy, very comedic, but not done. It's in a Naked Gun movie, the camera would have panned and that would have been the joke.
It would, absolutely. That would have been the payoff.
Yes. And you're like, but this doesn't happen here. They just sort of play it as if that's legitimate. And, VI's like, well, thanks, boys, for letting me play with your hose. Yeah. And then the other guy's like,
in that way. She says it in that sort of fake seductive way.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know why. Like, why are you saying it like that? Like, like, why are you making the sexual stop? Again, it's like male fantasy because and that then is then taken to the next level when one of the guys on the boat, after she gets off, says she can handle my hose anytime. And I was watching this with my friend Phil Dragish, and I said to him, I was like, man, they basically should have just said she can play with my dick anytime, because why even use the euphemism?
Why? Yeah, why? Because even unless you are in a Naked Gun comedy, unless you're in a Naked Gun comedy, people don't talk like that, do they?
No.
People don't make that sort of joke. The people would have said exactly what you just said they'd say.
Yes, like it's just like it's so dumb. Every joke is a crash and burn,
and it's because they're not set up properly and they're not delivered properly, and there's no payoff.
Yes.
There's no punch. That's meant to be the punchline.
Like, even the sailor who said that line, his delivery was terrible to the point where I was like, did they just like ask these guys on the boat to say something? Were they real actors? Because I don't think they were real actors.
No, I don't think they were. The
rest of the film, again, sort of as it kind of descends into chaos, things just start happening where she goes back to see Wayne Knight and she crushes his balls with a nutcracker because that's funny and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she has to go to the cops, and she's like, to the cop guy who she kind of has a friendship or relationship with. She's like, oh, give me 24 hours. And I'm like, what is going on? She also has another confrontation with Trumbull. And it's like every time she gets into sticky situations, they just seem to the bad guys just seem to let her walk away.
The previous scene with Wayne Knight, he gives her a real kicking, and it's quite a good kicking.
Yeah.
This time, he's completely at her mercy. So you've set up that he can kick her ass. How does he allow it? What sort of gangster is it that is that different in the space of God knows how many days in this film?
It's probably the next day.
Then allows him to have his balls crushed with nutcrackers. It doesn't make any sense, does it? It's not consistent. And it's almost as if the script needs to say, right, she needs to get this information. We need to wrap this up quick. So what we'll do is she'll threaten his balls. That's what that's what every man's frightened of.
Then there's the fire at VI's flat, the arson attack at her apartment. Then Kat is abducted because she eventually goes back to her parents, which she doesn't want to her mom, which she doesn't want to. And VI then learns that the whole thing is related, the whole mystery and the reason for Bernard's death is connected to the dock and the selling of it and all that sort of stuff. And then we get to the climax of the movie, which just again kind of back to things that were set up and not paid off. We get there and we find Trumbull. Trumbull has his daughter, his stepdaughter, in a boat, and he's going to lower it into the water and drown her. And she's been sedated with something, I don't know what. And the whole time he's lowering her, behind him is this big metal container that says flammable. Flammable. And I'm like, that has to explode. It doesn't happen in that scene because he shoots, because Murray goes with VI at this point for no reason at all. Murray gets shot by Trumbull, and then before Trumbull can shoot VI, then we get a legitimately interesting twist, in that the person who kills Trumbull is Kat's mom, who has been in the movie for about 90 seconds at this point. And she's always been a drunken, washed up mess. And you can kind of tell she's probably the most authentic character in terms of like, they wanted to depict this woman as someone who is like struggling with drugs and maybe depression and all. Like she comes across as probably the most authentic-esque.
I'd agree with that. But again, they can't be bothered developing that.
No. So she only has a couple of fleeting moments throughout the movie. And I was like, oh, okay, so she's here to save her daughter, because one of the whole gags is that her Kat doesn't love her mom and hates her mom because of all of her problems and doesn't feel like her mom loves her. And then there's also this sort of very ham-fisted theme of VI being like, would I be a good mom? And it's like, shut up. Again,
that is not what I expect this character to think about.
Not from a stranger's kid. Not with a stranger's kid.
Not with a stranger's. No. If it had been a niece, perhaps this could have been the daughter. This is the daughter I might have had if life had been different. Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, but not with a random bar meat stranger. I don't buy that at all.
So then it's quite interesting this last little bit, because then the mom shoots Trumbull, and then she goes over to the machine that's lowering the boat, and VI's like, raise the boat, and her mom's like, she doesn't love me, I'm going to kill my daughter. And you're like, whoa. Yeah. Like, again, it's another twist that I'm like, dang, that's dark, and I like it. I like that bit.
Yeah,
and
despite
again,
myself.
What's behind the mom? The metal container that says flammable. The flammable container. And I'm like, VI, you got a gun. Physics makes no sense in this movie. Shoot it. It'll blow up.
but it will only blow up just enough for it to suit your ends,
exactly.
Serve your purposes.
Exactly. And who knows what direction it will send her flying. And then that doesn't happen. And it's nuts, because then physics goes out the window again, because the boat goes in the water, deep in the water at this point. And you're like, okay, well, that kid is gone. That kid is just gone now. But no, VI goes running through bullets. Like, she's being shot at loads. It's almost like, again, it's cartoon-esque, where she's being shot, but no bullets are hitting her. But the mom was able to shoot her husband dead in the face, dead in the head, but she can't hit VI because she's a running target, I guess. I don't know.
It's like these professional assassins that can kill you with one bullet, but they can't kill James Bond to save their lives.
Exactly. So then she jumps in the water, and again, like, all these bullets are just like right next to VI, but none of them are hitting her. And every gun keeps, she keeps like, getting her gun off and using up all the bullets. And I'm just like, oh God, you're losing me now, movie. Again, you kind of had me for a minute there, because I was genuinely interested in these twists. And then now you're losing me with all these bullets going off and none of them hitting her. And it's just like, oh God. She saves the kid miraculously. And then there's this final confrontation, and then the mom ends up getting getting shot and killed. And then there's some really weird, a couple of weird bits after that.
Like, sure are.
Right?
Very, very strange.
Right.
I mean, just one point about that. Again, if this were a Naked Gun film, that climax would be absolutely satisfying. The bullets missing would be absolutely satisfying, and you'd be laughing along.
It'd be funny, yeah.
You know, it'd be brilliant. You know,
yes.
And somebody would fire at the flammable tank and miss, or something like that.
Yes.
You know, it would be referenced,
or just water would come out. You know, gas would just trickle out.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, the final scenes are just beyond bizarre to me.
Yeah. Because one more thing about the mom getting shot. Again, this is another moment where editing is bad and physics aren't making sense. And part of it's because editing. But she gets shot. You see the makeup. You see she's literally sitting there for a second. You see the makeup. Suddenly she throws her head back. And then suddenly she throws herself into the water. They did not edit this well.
No.
At all.
No.
So bad.
You'd think in the editing room they'd say, there's something we can do with it. Look, this is how it plays at the minute. But we can cut some more film to make it quicker, at least, so that it's not as noticeable. But it just all seems a bit half-assed to me.
And what did you think about the end where they were like, when Murray is talking about how the story he's going to write up, and I'm going to write up that her mom didn't try to kill her.
I hate it
because that will fly. Again,
it's script by numbers. These two have been bickering all the way through. They've obviously got history. He's a jerk, but he's going to come good in the end. And he's there at the docks to help her out, and he's going to go along with the fake story. Because again, that's sometimes a thing that happens in film noir and private eye novels where the truth doesn't quite come out, you know, usually for either for bad reasons or for good. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But what is presented to the outside world isn't necessary. There's always some sort of cover-up.
Yeah.
But in this, it's a lame cover-up because it makes no sense. Murray's redemption, if that's the right word, and I think that's what they're striving for it to be, has absolutely no value because it's not been set up, because he's been a jerk until he appears at the docks.
Yeah.
There's not been a scene where he's decided, actually, shit, VI's right about this. Yeah. He's not done his own investigation and found out that she might be in danger. He's just there because the script needs him to be there. The sort of fake love thing, and then the throwback to the nutcracker. You've seen what I can do with nutcrackers,
right?
Makes me feel sick.
Yes, but also VI also clearly demonstrates that Murray is an a-hole, because she calls him up, tells him information, says don't write about it, but then he writes about it. Yeah. And she's like, oh, yeah, he did what I wanted him to do. It's like, okay, so you know that he's going to do, you know that he's not trustworthy. You know that he's a complete.
So why does she think he's telling the truth when he's on a gurney?
Right?
Because he's taking a few knocks.
Right?
Makes no sense. But it's that, and this is a continuous theme or problem with the film and a theme of this particular episode. It's paint by numbers script writing, and there's no setup and no payoff. It's just that they have to be in certain places at certain times and act in certain ways at certain times, so that you think they've had a character journey, and they haven't at all. Even Kat and VI, when they say we're kindred spirits or something, she says, and we're friends. I think, well, when was that relationship developed that I even believe that or begin to believe that for a second?
No.
Because all the way through, she's been a pain in your ass. Apart from the ending and a few scenes where she said, you know, she shows a bit of emotion, Kat has just been constant all the way through.
Yes.
And that is antagonistic, precocious, and completely unhinged in many ways.
Well, this is why I was like, are they watching things like RoboCop 2? Because the main villain in RoboCop 2 is a boy. It's a small, it's a 10-year-old kid. And he is the same. He's a loud, smart mouth kid. And, you know, I'm like, okay, is that what we're going for? I mean, again, John Connor in Terminator 2 was kind of similar, but I'm like, is this what we're doing? Is this what you're aiming for? But like, what's the redemption for her? Or is she just always going to be a smart ass?
And where's the emotional hook for me to be invested in her? She isn't consistent when her dad's died, because if she cared about her dad, she wouldn't be playing with the kids in the school or whatever it is, the day center or whatever it is. Yeah, she wouldn't be dressing up in VI's clothes.
That felt very immature. That felt very immature for her to do. That's something if a 5-year-old does, not a 13-year-old.
Absolutely, and it's just that, and it's almost as if that's paid off. That's almost a setup for a gag that doesn't work.
No, the gag was to get
VI's got to get changed in the back of the cab,
Yes.
just so she can say, "Consider this is your tip."
And also, like, why is she wearing that? Her undergarments are like super sexy undergarments as well. You're like, why is she wearing what? Is this is that because she was expecting Bernard to come back and that like what?
Yeah, it don't make any sense. None of it is well thought through.
She was like Victoria's Secret, like decked out. I was like, what? Okay, whatever.
And there were 3 writers on this.
Yes, and they all suck.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it now, and it's only just occurred to me this, but it's almost as if they shot the first draft before anybody. Before anybody sort of sat down and said, "This needs tidying up." Chaps.
Yeah, I would. That's something I would like to know, and I don't know. If maybe someone out there knows this, but it would be interesting to know how quickly they busted this draft out and went to filming, or was there a completed draft before they started filming? I mean, that happens quite a lot.
We know from previous episodes, some of the films we've looked at, they've been written, rewritten.
Yeah.
This seems as if it was just sort of one
Slapped
afternoon
together in a weekend.
Yeah, one afternoon in a bar.
Yeah.
Scribbling it on napkins, and then everyone went home and wrote a bit.
Yeah. Thinking back to the whole physics and things not making sense. Did you notice the mystery of the disappearing bruise?
Yes.
So Wayne Knight's character beats the crap out of her. She's got a massive bruise on her eye. Next morning, puts some makeup on
it. They know that bruise is there because they make a point of her having to cover it up with makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And that is some good makeup because it disappears.
Literally disappears. You never see any sign of any of those because she had a bloody eye, black eye, and she also had like a cut lip. Gone.
Yeah. And again, that's
She's like goddamn Wolverine.
Well, that to me again is a symptom of the PI's got to get beaten up. So here she is getting beaten up. That's okay, then that box is ticked again. But the consequences of that and the after effects of that, who cares about them? Move on to the next plot point.
Thematically, like I couldn't tell you what this film is trying to say. Is it a commentary on motherhood, good, bad, mom? I don't know. Is it about corporate greed? They kept using that line, follow the money.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Which, is a sort of cliche in itself, isn't it? I don't know if it is meant to be about mother and daughter relationships. If it is, it's not done particularly well.
No.
And again, it's because the characters aren't fleshed out enough. And again, the corporate greed isn't examined deeply enough for that to be the theme either.
If it were me and I was writing this script, I mean, one, I'd probably pay more attention to the book, but also like you could do things like Bernard comes to her because, hey, there have been a series of I don't know, arson attempts on our property. There's been a series of this, that, and the other. And the police aren't doing their job quick enough. Can you investigate this sort of thing? But no, we need her to put on a red shoe and kick the client in the shin, and then they need to get off in the car park like a couple of lot lizards. Again,
it's like you say, it's all the ingredients of a cake, but it's not a cake you want to eat.
What did you like in this movie?
And I don't think I liked very much about it at all. The stair fight I liked. There were a couple of lines that I thought were quite amusing.
I think for me the one thing that I can say that I definitely that I liked for sure was I liked Kat's mom being the ultimate villain because I genuinely didn't see that coming in such a stupid movie. Such a very, very stupid movie. It still managed that one twist that I thought, hey, I'll give it credit for that. I like that.
I would have liked to have seen more of Wayne Knight, for example. I would have liked to have seen more of the two of them facing off against each other. And I would have liked him to have had a stake in it at the end. He should have been part of the deal. And that makes for good PI fiction for me, good film noir, that you think it's about the land deal or the political ambition or the whatever it is. And in part it is, but its real heart, it's about a human being and their loss, their grief, their whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
And with a bit of polish, well, a lot of polish, they could have, if somebody had gone in, if a script doctor had gone in and cut out all the crap jokes and said, at the heart of this, you've got something quite interesting. And you've also got a decent noir thriller here. It's just begging to get out from under the oppressive duvet covers of the jokes and the lame-ass lazy relationship writing.
Yes.
It could have been something much better.
Oh,
So
I
yeah,
agree.
there are glimmers, and those glimmers, I suppose, is what I'll say I liked about it.
I think when it comes to things we disliked, we've pretty well covered that.
Yeah, the whole episode, I think.
Do you have a favorite character?
Well, not really, but I am going to say VI herself, and I'm going to just say that I think Kathleen Turner was wasted.
I chose Ernie. Do you even know who Ernie is?
No.
Ernie is, they go to the VI and Kat go to the dock one day, and there's this black guy, and Kat tries to talk. They're trying to get information from him. He's the only person in this movie that made me feel like he's a real person.
Yes, I do know who you mean.
Because
he's in it for about 90 seconds.
Yes, like the way he talks to Kat and the way he's responding to Kat and like I felt there was a real sense of connection. And then when he walked away and VI's like, he's clamming up because of me, but he'll talk to you.
Yeah.
And then Kat goes over there and says, some stuff. And then he eventually gives up some information. He was the only, I like him. I liked his acting. I liked his character. It was the only truly the only scene in this whole movie that felt believable with everyone, with Kat and with VI and with someone they're trying to get information from. Worst character?
I'm gonna single out Murray. What I hate most about Murray is the fact that I meant to cheer him and I meant to think he's a hero at the end, and I don't.
Mine's a triple header. So I'll say them quickly. Trumbull. I hated Trumbull. He was a cartoonish 80s villain with stupid hair. Wayne Knight's character Earl. Cool idea, but again, cartoonish gangster. And third, Murray. He was superficial from start to finish. Not funny, not interesting. Get out of here. What about best line?
VI saying you always did suffer from premature articulation.
Yes. I that was one of my two. And see, that one worked for me because it was VI saying it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work when it's these sleazy guys saying sleazy stuff. I put that one down as one of mine. The other one I put down was from Kat at the very beginning when she looks inside VI's refrigerator and it's disgusting. And she's like, she says, you got enough penicillin in here to cure the clap. That just killed me. I was like, you know what? In terms of depending, if you're going for crude comedy, that's a great line.
Yeah,
that's a great line. What's your worst line?
All the others, but I have put Trumbull, where he looks her up and down. She goes to see him like towards the end, and he looks her up and down, and he says, "Oh, the dick from the dock." One
of my worst lines. But Trumbull looks at me and he goes, I F a lot, like more than 500 women. And I'm like, did a 13-year-old write this movie? No one says I F a lot, more than like 500. Like, what the shit? I hated Murray saying holy police brutality, like he's some sort of, I don't know, defunct Robin. I hated VI saying, this is the very beginning of the movie, the guy offered me $5,000 a week to look after his sausage. Like, ugh. I do not have a favorite scene.
I've mentioned my favorite scene, and it is the stairwell.
Worst scene, on the other hand, I have loads. Not loads, but the three I have are, I hated the lawyer scene where the kid is screaming about a sexual assault. I didn't find that funny or anything. I thought it was very gross, not cool, not fun.
Yeah,
the boat scene. No, the boat scene with the hose, that was stupid. The whole chase was dumb. And the boat explosion where Bernard goes flying in the wrong direction. Those three stood out to me as some of the worst scenes. But there are quite a few others.
I mean, I've put all cat scenes.
Yeah, she is annoying. Yeah,
I think almost all the scenes qualify for being the worst.
Interestingly or not, this film had a $24 million budget. Can you guess what its box office was? About
$20.
11 million.
It's
US box office. I don't even know if it had an international release. It probably didn't, but its US box office was 11 million. Interesting though, Roger Ebert in the Chicago Sun-Times, he did give this movie 3 out of 4 stars. He praised Turner's performance as Kathleen Turner fits the character more closely than I would have imagined. Her laugh seems aged by whiskey. Her smile is brave in the face of trouble. Her kiss, she kisses guys as if she'll never see them again, and she's usually right. Sometimes Ebert has some just crazy opinions on movies that are terrible.
Yeah.
This goes like, what the crap are you talking about?
I do think that, again, with a different script, different director, a different crew, a different everything, Turner could have been quite good in this role.
She could have. It's a shame that this film didn't land, and this is what we got, and now we've not had a single V I Warshawski since, and it's a character that I would love to see readapted with intelligent creators behind it. What's your rating? How many Falcons are you giving this?
I'm going to give it half a Falcon for the stairwell fight.
I think I'm going to settle with just one Falcon. I think Kat, I think that actress's line in Home Alone sums up V I Warshawski perfectly. Les incompetents. Well, folks, that's our investigation into V I Warshawski. Thanks for joining us on it. We hope to see you back in the consulting rooms next week. Until then, please do like and subscribe, and be sure to take care walking down those mean streets.